Honest community, before we dive into this episode, we've got a quick free favour to ask. If you enjoy the Honest Property podcast, please hit like, follow and subscribe wherever you're listening from. It helps us grow, reach more people and bring on guests that you want to hear from. Thanks for being a part of this. We appreciate you more than you know.
Hello and welcome to the Honest Property podcast. We are hosts Becky and Ruth, and we love talking all things holistic a holistic approach to entrepreneurship and financial literacy, predominantly through property investing. And on today's podcast, we have Rebecca, the property girl, who also we both call ourselves Rebecca. Actually, we're matching colours if anybody's watching the video of this.
Oh, we are, aren't we? Yeah, check us out. Coordinated without even realising it.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We've been admiring Rebecca for ages. Before we even popped our social media cherry. Is that the right way of saying it?
Well, basically, we found Rebecca on social media and we're like, wow, she really, the way that you were on social media, we just felt like we really resonated with you and your mission, and
it was so woman-led, for the sake of womankind.
And because for a long time before we were exposed to other people in the property space online that we clicked with, you were one of the first accounts where it was so refreshing to be able to see another woman when a lot of the social media pages to do with property was all about scaling these massive big tower blocks, and obviously nothing wrong with that. That's there's a strategy for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Making it simple with what you've done, and it was so women led. We just thought, wow, you're great.
Oh, that's just made my day. Thank you for saying that. Because sometimes when you're putting content out there, because I've always tried to be, not even tried to be, I know I've always been different, and it's why I left the corporate property world, because I didn't last very long, in all fairness, in the corporate property world, because it just didn't work for me, and the messaging and their approach to property just didn't align at all. And I've always wanted to get out there and do something that was different, that felt right. And I think we were saying before, a bit more heart-led, while still making sure that we need to do what we need to do to make it work for ourselves. So yeah, thank you for saying that. You never know when you're putting stuff out into the big wide world what people think often. So yeah, it's really lovely to hear. So thank you.
Also, in a world of just chat GPT and everyone sounding the same, you were
a
social media page that really just sounded like what we thought you would sound like. So thank you.
Thank you. And chat GPT has made me up my game even more, in terms of content and stuff, because you've got to, haven't you? It's just it's really interesting how that's changing everything. But I think it's just so important to be yourself, to be authentic, which is exactly what I think about you guys as well. You are you, and I just love the mission and the journey that you're on as well, and sharing that experience with other people that are wanting to get into property. There need to be more of us.
Yeah. Well, you started the torch. You flamed the torch. Is that you
lit the torch,
and we're carrying one now. There's more of us, so it's so lovely.
Pass the baton on.
Yes, that's the one.
No, but it is lighting the torch though initially, isn't it? Get soul lit and all of that, and then pass it on and make it possible for others to do the same. 100%. I think it's so important.
So you said that you were in corporate property. So what does that mean? Is that in lettings or with estate agency work? How did you start and then start investing yourself?
So I actually come from a background of property. So I was born into property and but I spent my childhood on building sites, and I think I've written it in certain places, but my brother and I would climb piles of muck on a Saturday and declare ourselves king and queen of the castle. And then health and safety would have a field day these days, but that was our sort of upbringing, and we just used to track around all the different sites and everything. But it was never something that I actually wanted to get into. I had no desire whatsoever. And I actually went and got a law degree. and then moved to LA. And just I wanted to be Ally McBeal. I used to watch Ally McBeal growing up, so that was my dream. And then when I left, I was in LA for 4.5 years, and when I moved back, I ended up working for a property management company, so all the letting side. And as I said before, I didn't really last all that long there, because I just felt like they could do better. And that's how I felt. And it was really interesting seeing their sort of perception on the landlord and tenant relationship. And it was very much them versus I can't speak, us versus them. And it just used to make me feel cold. Like there was no relationship created. There was endless sort of cease management from landlords coming in because just weren't doing a good enough job, basically. But there was such a big name, it almost didn't matter because there was a lot of turnover. And I just sort of sat there one day, and I'd never actually, because I worked in the legal side, I'd never actually thought about doing my own property management company, but I just thought I could do different and a bit better. So I left and I set up my own property management company and just built it slowly based on my own personal beliefs of how property management should work in terms of the landlord-tenant relationship and fostering and nurturing that relationship. And it worked, and it sort of grew from there. And then I met my now ex-husband, and he was a property developer. And then that was sort of like the point at which I started getting involved in building and refurbing properties. And I absolutely loved it. Really enjoyed it. It was hard work at times, and especially when you're sitting there at midnight doing the bank loans for a new build that you're building, and you've got a newborn baby and all of that happening, and then bricklayers not turning up to work and stuff. So, but the end product and just seeing a vision come to life was just amazing. And it kind of just stemmed from there really and kept rolling forwards. And then we separated, and for me personally and sort of professionally, it was the beginning of probably one of the hardest and most, it's probably like learning curve of my life in terms of raising Nola by myself, and starting to refurb properties by myself. And that was really hard. I remember sort of walking up the hill where we used to live and just saying to my friends, I can't do this. I cannot do this on my own. I had this 3-bed terrace property that was not fit for anyone to live in there. Although multiple people told me you could just rent it out as it was. It was shocking. Like it wasn't fit for anything. But I had no choice because it was there, it needed work doing to it, and I needed to make money to pay for nursery and all of that kind of thing. And yeah, I just step by step started speaking to builders, speaking to trades. And I mean, I had some level of knowledge because my ex and I had done these properties before, but I think with the separation and being a single parent and trying to do everything was a lot. And it felt really overwhelming, but I did it. Lot of sort of sleepless nights and lots of lessons learned, but got there in the end and actually smashed the ceiling in terms of valuation at the end. So it kind of gave me the confidence to keep going. And then they kind of got a bit bigger and a bit bigger and bigger. And yeah, so that's kind of where it came from. But Property Girl really sort of came to fruition, shall we say, because personally for me, after our separation, it wasn't the best relationship. And when we separated, I became part of support groups to really kind of try and understand what had happened or what had happened within our relationship and why I felt a certain way. And I realised that there were so many women that were financially dependent upon their partners and couldn't leave relationships that were far more unhealthy than mine had been. And it just, I suppose I kind of always knew it was there, but actually seeing the reality of it and people saying, but I can't leave, I don't even have the money to be able to get away, like the transport to get away. And it just made me realise just how important it is in my late 30s, it took me that long, it is for women to have their own financial independence and have that security to be able to make those choices, to be able to live a life that they want to and they want to choose to, and also to be able to make better decisions because you're in a good place. And that's kind of where Property Girl started, really. It was just meant to be sort of sharing my knowledge and my tips in my way. And then when all the divorce stuff was over, we were in court for 5 years, and it cost me 6 figures in legal fees. It just absolutely killed me. Yeah, so I've literally been rebuilding myself financially and mentally, physically, emotionally, all of that stuff. And yeah, it when that had all sort of come to its end, it was then I was able to make a business out of Property Girl, really. But yeah, just doing what I can to share what I know in my way to help women to be able to invest in property and to be able to do it well and not feel like they've got to, like we were saying before, these tower blocks, go all out and have to have a business or replace their income. For me, and I think that's brilliant if that's what you choose to do. But for me, it's allowing women to know that if they want to buy one property, that's powerful and that's transformational.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, we were just talking about this, like, even just owning one, like, just
Yeah.
one, like, that's
Yeah.
huge.
If
It is.
every woman could own one property, that
Yeah.
Such a reassurance. That's like
Yeah.
your get out card.
Yeah, it is. It gives you those options, doesn't it? You could sell it, you could move into it. It offers so many options to you if you're in a situation that you don't want to be in anymore. But equally, I think as well, it kind of gives you the confidence. I don't think it's even a word, but like groundedness. That it makes you feel grounded.
Yes.
Even if you decide to change careers or you want to step sideways or take a break, you kind of have the confidence because you know you've got that property there, that if you bought right, it's growing in value, but it's also providing a nice little bit of extra income as well. It just makes you feel like you can make that decision and make that change. So
you go first.
I was gonna say that what you're saying resonates so hard, and I remember reading a book on a holiday, and it's called "Smart Women Finish Rich," and the statistics of women and our financial dependency on men, especially when it comes to marriage, just like your own story, just puts you in a position that makes you feel stuck. Or
yeah,
and generally, men also, if you do, you've your marriage persists, then men have a shorter life expectancy than women, and our part of life, the whatever we have of life left, that isn't considered in the financial planning, and on average, that means we have to live with significantly less than what we anticipated, because it's not really like as a couple, as a partnership, you're considering what, like, people don't really consider what happens when someone
that's
dies.
really interesting.
But also, like, we've seen this from our own upbringing of our mums, some of our mother's friends, where they couldn't leave their partnerships because of the financial.
I've seen it. Yeah.
All the financial responsibility was always on the partner,
the main breadwinner.
Yeah.
And also just are not, if all the finances are delegated to one partner, then the other one is left in the dark and just blindly trusting that everything's going to be okay.
It was a big reason why we were like, we need to invest, so whichever partner we end up being with, we're secure. Like, if something happens, then we've got like an exit strategy. We don't need to be in this relationship to be relying on partner to sort out our future.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think it's also, I think it can improve your relationship as well. It's not even you need to protect yourself in case something happens in the future. I think if you're financially secure and you're independent, it can only enhance that relationship, surely. And as I've always sort of said, you've got your financial independence and they have, and then when it comes to retirement, it's going to be bloody epic. Like, if you've looked after it. And anyway, and I always say as well, what makes a man better anyway at looking after the finances? And I know that's not how it happens across the board. I've got friends with parents that their mothers are very much the ones sort of like in control of the finances and everything. But it does happen. And equally, I've seen people like husband, I'm not blaming Ben, or that sounds really awful, but that haven't been great with the finances. And because their wives, their partners, they haven't been sort of privy to that information, they've ended up in a poor financial situation as well. So,
hey guys, if you're new to property investing, we know exactly how hard it is to figure out where to start. That's why we created the Beginner's Roadmap. It's your guide to mastering the fundamentals so that you can move forward with clarity and confidence. Plus, you'll gain access to our free community for ongoing support. Just hit the link in the show notes. Now, let's jump back into this episode.
I think it's essential really that we do look after ourselves.
I think because of in history, women have been the main child carers.
Yeah.
And so then having the money talks with your partner gets neglected because you fall too easily into your roles. I know that this is changing now, but historically it's not been that long really that now
it hasn't
changed. But with a lot of the time, what we saw was the male was the breadwinner, and the female looked after the children. But then they miss out on the money talks monthly that could really help them to work together and with their spending. And when you don't, if one partner, the woman, doesn't know how to look after those finances, what if your partner dies? And then how do you know what to do? Or like if you have assets, like where's all the money? That must be so overwhelming to have to deal with that, and especially you've got children involved as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, sorry, Mum, but that's my mum. And she said that to me because my stepdad is so diligent, and he's wonderful. But he takes care of all of that side of things. And I think because there is a considerable age gap between them, it does really scare my mum. Like, how will she be able to deal with that when that time comes, hopefully far away? But it is that. And I think again it just shows, doesn't it, how important it is to educate yourself on finances and literacy, and even with our children as well. I do with Nola. Don't go into great depths with her yet, but I think it's really important for her to really understand how it all works and to be in charge of her own money. Definitely as she grows up. I think it's a really important lesson for them.
Just to compound on what you said about how as a woman you can operate you can exist with a lot more ease and just present yourself in the best form when you have that level of security behind you, whether you're on your business, or you're a mother, or you're looking after the family. That is just a better way to move through the world when you feel at peace financially.
Exactly. And I think we all know that when we're in like a position of fear, or we're worried or anxious about something, we don't make great decisions. And I think we need money basically. And I think when we are in a great financial position, like I said before, we are able to make decisions from a far better place that are well thought through, and not knee-jerk, not impulsive, because we feel like this confidence in the decisions that we are making. So definitely important. And also as well, sorry to interrupt you, no, I was just going to say, I can't remember the exact statistics. My retention of information can be awful sometimes, but the correlation between having your financial independence and even like domestic abuse, I think it's quite astounding, the number. It's like 3 or 4 times greater. I'll have to find that out, but you are more 3 or 4 times greater chance of being involved in domestic abuse if you don't have your own financial independence. So it's scary. It's really scary.
And that type of abuse can present in so many ways, whether it's like
absolutely
abuse,
emotional. It's soul destroying, and I know that from personal experience. So and we all deserve to live these wonderful, I want my life to be at the point where I look back in hopefully many years to come and just go, that was a ride, like with a smile on my face. I don't want it to be like, oh, I wish I'd done this, or And I think as well, I think it's key to say, because I know people that are saving so hard for the future that they don't enjoy the now.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be balance, because whilst we can and we're able and we can jump on planes and do whatever we want to do, I think it's really important that we get the balance right, that we live now but also prepare for the future and make it, as I would call it, financially fabulous. So
because we're going to be living till 100, so we need...
yeah, I'm going to be in my beach house drinking margaritas with my best friend. The men can be in a wing. So, but yeah, I've got no plans on it being dull and boring. I want it to be bloody epic. So
yes, I
yeah,
love that. I think women also naturally have a bit more long-sighted as well with our
yeah,
planning. I
yeah,
personally have just noticed this. Men tend to be a little shorter sighted. Maybe it's because we live longer.
maybe, or maybe it's because we're smarter.
I truly believe women were made to invest.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
100%. And I know that you wrote down that you'd love to talk about how the landlord and tenant relationship, if as a woman, we tend to be, a lot of us, or actually it's in our nature, to be more on the nurturing, empathetic side.
Yes.
We're good customer service.
Yeah, exactly. And that's key. And it's something that I sat down the other day and I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this 17 years, which scared the life out of me. But yeah, it's something that I've always implemented. And I think it was highlighted when I worked at the corporate company. Yeah. And I just felt there was such a lack of customer service. The customer service was always on the whole ish with the landlords. And tenants were just seen really as an inconvenience. And I've never seen it like that, because I mean, let's face it, rental doesn't exist without a landlord and a tenant and a property.
Because they're technically the customer, like make the customer happy as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about creating a customer experience for them to go on a journey and have this amazing experience from you as a landlord. But equally, I think when you implement that into your tenancy, into that journey, then I think it's so much more rewarding for you as the landlord, as the investor as well, because in my experience, it starts to become easier. I'm not saying it's ever going to be just super easy or anything. It's not. But I think when you really nurture that relationship with your tenants and you look after them because they're looking after your investment, they're also contributing towards your financial future by paying your mortgage for you. And you have to see it as this ecosystem. It just becomes easier because, when you have got issues that crop up, like I had, my tenants moved in last year, and a week after they moved in, a leak sprung literally from the top. It's 3 stories, top floor, all the way down to the lounge. And I was just like, never had any issues. I was like, oh my God. So I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. And they were wonderful because I'd gone into that relationship with them, even at the point of first contact, being super intentional about the relationship I wanted to build with them. Even through the whole referencing process. And then at the move-in, and I always have moving gifts for my tenants when they move in, and the same at Christmas. I always drop off gifts for all of us stuff. So just to show my gratitude, because they are looking after an asset for me and they are paying my mortgage, which is looking after me for the future. So when this happened and I've got water pouring through the ceiling, they were so gracious and so understanding and patient and just really lovely. And it just made it so much easier for me. Obviously, I had to be on the phone, liaising with the insurance company. And then with the leak investigation team, I had to get the leak investigation team out. So, because I had so many holes in ceilings because I couldn't find the leak. And yeah, it's like, oh. And yeah, ended up being the toilet in the ensuite on the top floor of all things. I thought it was a central heating system. I mean, it was, in the end, it was a relatively easy fix, but the damage that it had caused was, considerably worse. But as a thank you to them, because one of the bedrooms had been quite badly damaged, the carpet, and I think there were several holes in the ceiling. So we had to get it replastered, and then obviously it needed redecorating. And I just said to him, here's a colour chart. I mean, it was the simplest of things. I was like, here's a colour chart. It was a teenage boy. And we just said, pick a colour. What colour does he want the bedroom? And it was just a simple thing, but it was just like, I really appreciate, your patience and the fact that you just moved in and it should have all been okay. And then all of a sudden this has happened. And it's just things like that where, you nurture and you look after them and they'll do the same. And, I think we need to kind of shift and move away from this sort of attitude of, nightmare tenants and rogue landlords and things. I mean, yes, obviously it happens and it does, and we've all got experience of that. But I think if we go in with the right intention, we do our due diligence, which I think as women we're so good at, really sort of researching and taking our time and being a little bit more patient than I think a lot of men, because they're quite gung-ho and just want to get on with it. I think it rewards you multiple times over. I really do. And that's why I sort of say be the CEO of your rental, because...
Before we continue, here's a quick thought. Ever feel like there's just never enough time to focus on what really matters in your business? You don't have to do it all alone. As they say, a great team makes everything easier. That's why we've partnered with the Freedom Geek. Their talented Filipino VAs help us with tasks like admin and podcast editing, just like for this episode, giving us the freedom to focus on what really moves the needle. If you're looking to reclaim your time and to work smarter, then check out the Freedom Geek. All the details are in the show notes. Now let's get back to our conversation.
I see it all the time. I don't know about you guys, but like on landlord forums and things, I kind of get a little bit of, I kind of giggle to myself when I read some of the comments. And one of them is, it's a business, not a charity. And I just see it all the time. And I'm like, okay, I get that it's not a charity, but equally, if you're saying it's a business, make it a bloody good one then. Yeah. So
of course we know that like it at the end of the day when you're investing, like you have to run it like it's a business, but there's also like a human side that gets neglected. And I do think though that maybe it's just because it's the UK. There is just a lot of bashing of landlords, and I feel like it's because of the media, and it segregates, makes tenants feel like they need to be in fear of landlords,
or just on defense,
or on defense, and then I feel like, well, how do we address like the media from turning tenants and landlords
against one another for clickbait? It's to get people to click on articles, and you see it all the time, don't you, with that and with buy to let's dead, and you shouldn't be investing in landlords are greedy. And it's a really tricky thing because they do what they want when it comes to all of that. But I think I feel like there's a new era and there's a new generation of landlord. You guys, I can see that in you, and some other amazing people that I see online in the online space, that are doing really good things with property. And I think the Renters' Rights Bill is going to shake this up considerably. And I think I hate to say it, but there's a lot of old school landlords out there and that don't like change. And it has been a certain way for a really long time, but I think it is time for change, and I think some of it most definitely is needed, but it'll just be interesting to see how it's implemented. I think that's going to be key. So it'll be an interesting year, I think.
Are you worried about the Renters' Rights Bill, or do you feel like it will affect you?
I think from an administrative side of things, potentially, because it's getting our heads around sort of the changes with no longer having Section 21 and no longer having the AST. But on the whole, not overly, because I feel like I've set it up right anyway in the first place. And I think that is a lot about what I do on a day-to-day basis. It's about putting the effort in at the front end.
Exactly. Like making sure you're vetting tenants really well.
It's all of that. It's prepping the property, making sure your property is of a good standard, like not this will do attitude, because I think if you half-ass it, you're going to end up with maintenance issues, which means you're going to get the phone calls, which means it's going to it's time suck. So set it up right in the first place, get the property prepared, do your marketing well. And then, like you said, take your time to vet tenants, get to know them. I mean, I always meet my tenants. It's what I want to do. It's my properties. So I want to make sure that we get on and we click and things when they come and have a look around. And yeah, just make sure that all the tenancy side of things, deposit, everything is done in the right way. So that you are reducing, nothing's ever guaranteed, is it? It's not bulletproof, but I think you can do a lot of things to make sure that you are looking after both yourself and them, and being boundaried about it, but being friendly and professional. I don't think there's any need to separate yourself so much that, you know.
Yeah,
So, sorry.
I was going to say, yeah, I think there's so much you can do with systemizing and
Yeah.
making sure that you do certain protocols that protect you and the tenant. But I think what you do and illustrate so like wonderfully, and there needs to be so much more of this, is not removing yourself too
The
much
human, yeah.
from your business. There's a fine
Yeah.
line, and I think when we see each other as humans, we respect each other's humanity, or for the
Yes.
most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, if something hasn't gone quite right, like it has like that massive repair that had to happen during that first moving in, they can empathize with you and respect the fact that you're not perfect. Not everything's going to be perfect, and it just takes away that potential layer of stress when things inevitably will go wrong, because there's a lot more understanding between the tenant and the landlord that you know,
we have a similar story actually, where we had a couple who was staying at one of our properties, and they were so lovely and we had great communication with them. We didn't actually, we wanted to make sure that the home felt like it was their home, so we didn't, you know, we did our inspections, we allowed them to enjoy the home like it was theirs. It was theirs, you know, but when it came to a time when they were ready to buy their own place, it was so lovely to have them say, thank you for being such great landlords. And that we were like the best landlords they'd ever had, because we just wanted to make sure that that felt like that was actually their home that they got to live in, and they lived there happily for 5 years. And it's so rewarding to know that you've helped people
at that stage
of their journey, and now they bought their own property, and they're like, good for you.
And I think that's why, you know, I think that's so missed so often in this world, and the dialogue and conversations that people have, which is why sort of a lot of stuff that is out there about landlords and tenants and things, I just kind of go, oh God, no. But it is that human connection. And I think we, again, going back to the power of a single property and how transformative that property can be for the people that live there. I had a tenant years ago, and she moved in, and she'd been very poorly. She'd lost her home because she couldn't work because she was very ill. Her relationship had fallen apart because of it. And she rang me. It was between Christmas and New Year, and everyone else had turned her away, like they weren't interested, you know, because of her situation. And we just talked and got to know one another. And she moved in, and she was one of my best tenants. You know, the house was immaculate. Rent was always early because she'd never wanted to be in the financial situation that she'd found herself in anyway. And the transformation, though, when she moved in, and how poorly she was, but it was a home for her to recuperate. It was a home for her to almost like build her strength back up. And I watched her just flourish and bloom and take the stage. In the end, she started speaking about her experience and everything. And it just filled me up, because I knew it was because it was that, not purely obviously because of the house and everything, but she'd had somewhere to call home that made her feel safe, that allowed her to get better. And I think we underestimate how powerful that is, and especially like on our mental health and well-being as well, when there are so many substandard properties, and sadly there still are, in my experience. But we know that if our heating isn't working or something breaks, it can stress us out. Like, we just want to be able to come home and shut the front door and forget the world kind of exists sometimes. And when the house or our home isn't kind of comfortable, it can add to that as well. So I think the home and allowing tenants to make it their home is massively important. And again, I think that comes back them wanting to stay, them wanting to put down roots. And it's only great for us anyway, because we get a better return on investment, and we're not having to find new tenants, and we're not having to take our time to do all of that, or pay remarketing fees, or all of this stuff. So I think I think we need to sort of shift how,
isn't it? A little bit of work beginning and ongoing. Actually, it's not a passive. Property's not like really. It's passive.
No, we are being really careful where we remember not to say passive
because
anymore,
it's not
because
true.
it's recurring income, and it's nurturing. Like, you're not nurturing somebody, you're caring about your client, essentially.
Well, they're our customers, aren't they, at the end of the day?
If you want something that's a bit more passive, then do stocks and shares. The property not that one. Yes, it's great to return, but it's so you're dealing with people's real lives.
Exactly.
You cannot take that lightly. Like, if you go into property, know that you're going into property because you really are wanting to give back to the community.
Absolutely. And I think that's again something, because I think making sure that we make profit is essential. But again, when I've seen so many people talk about it, been to shows and things, and it's all about profit, it's all about bottom line, and it's never about the relationship, it's never about the connection. And in fact, there's a landlord that I know knew really, really well back in the day, and he's extremely successful. I admire him massively. But I remember reading something he put out, and it was like, to make your life more time efficient or something. And it was basically saying, don't know any of your tenants' names. Like, don't. And I just sort of sat there and I thought, that is so sad. That's really sad. These people that are contributing to your future, that you're also having hopefully a positive impact on, you're not interested. I mean, I know we're not all the same. Pardon?
It's like seeing them as a number.
And
I just, something that's always great is like, especially in like the property education world, it was very much, I know we've said it, I know I'm guilty, we've said it before, of like, it is a numbers game, but then you need to look further into that numbers game once you've got your properties and go, okay, well, we're also dealing with lives. It's business, that you have to think logically, but there is an empathy that comes with investing in this sort of way. And if you cannot tap into that, then maybe property is not for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I also think that unless you're really lucky, that's only going to end in disaster as well. It's just going to become a bit of a headache when you don't nurture those relationships. And I think especially what I'm seeing now, and I think there is sort of this bit of a loneliness pandemic happening as well, and especially with technology, where we don't need to be anywhere to work, and we're so remote, that I think we are losing to some degree that human connection. And actually, I think it's so incredibly important when it comes to being successful. Obviously, my speciality is like buy-to-let, but I think it's massively important when it comes to that and making a success of it, really.
And on the flip side, because you're doing, and we're making more effort to be the people that care and have that connection, you're doing the opposite of what a lot of people are suggesting, and that will make you stand out. It returns to you. It's a better position to be in, because people would be like, oh, I know that landlord might have it available. They'll look to you first. If they're looking.
Exactly.
I would also say on another side as well, like if you are wanting to use management for your properties, also really research and make sure that management are going to be able to look after your tenants the way that you would too. That's so important.
Absolutely.
You just choose anyone. If you really cannot manage your properties, you need to do your due diligence as well with finding the right management for your property.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. Back in my management days, when I had my company, it was building that relationship was massively important to me. And it shows now because I'm still friends with landlords and tenants, even though I no longer have that business. But at the same time, and I think my experience in the corporate world, because it was so big and there was such a disconnect, landlords and tenants, neither of them were being looked after at all. And it just created more problems. So you're absolutely right. I think I always secret shop. So like when I'm using an agent or something to sell a property, I always secret shop them because I want to know how they are going to react towards me if I'm a buyer and see how they deal with that. And I think you can do that as well when it comes to your rental properties and just see how they operate. So yeah, that's me.
I love that.
I like that tip. What we used to do is we called it ghost like ghosting, like not ghosting. Ghosting means like, I know ghosting means like you just disappear. We did it as like if we wanted to check whether a property was actually going to perform or like who would inquire about a particular property, we do like a ghost listing. And then see who would communicate, and then you can gauge like, okay, this is the kind of people that we'd be in contact.
That's really clever. Yeah.
With this kind of tenant, is this a kind of market we even want to be a part of? Or yeah, you could do the same with any service provider, like a management or a letting, or an estate agent. That's a good good way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like that.
Be a ghost.
Yeah, be a ghost, be clever.
The people that you help, it's women only based, is it?
It is, yeah. I mean, obviously, I've helped men as well in the past, but really my focus is helping women to invest in property, because I just think, and I hear it so much, it's such a male-dominated world and it can feel so intimidating. And I also think as well, we're so busy. Like for me, being a single parent and working and wanting to have a social life and, you know, do all of those things, I think it feels like it's going to be massively overwhelming and it's going to take too much time and they're not going to have a life. It's going to be too much responsibility. I know sometimes I can feel like I've got, even putting the bins out, for example, can feel like an awful lot sometimes. So I wanted to create something, which is why I love Buy-to-Let so much, because I know it's sort of seen as this simple strategy, but it's actually so transformative. It's so amazing and it's really powerful. But I like to try and keep it as simple and straightforward as possible, but also have fun with it, because again, I think it can be seen as a bit of a chore, not by everybody, but it can be seen like it's such a mountain to climb. So I think by having fun with it and enjoying the process, it can feel so much more rewarding as well.
I was going to say that it's funny because we've done multiple strategies and like we've always gone back and go, oh, Buy-to-lets have always been there. Like, yes, okay, it may not sound as sexy as like the other,
no.
But it has never failed us. They are the
exactly
of our portfolio. And I think when you realize, especially if you are coming out of a toxic relationship or you're in a point of your life where you want to pivot and you just don't know what to do, but you know that like investing is a good thing, why would you go, okay, now you need to go and do this complete like commercial to resi build as your first thing? Simpler, make it simpler for the people who haven't done anything, never invested before, and they want, but like knowing that getting on the property ladder is just like gives you all these options. Then yes, Buy-to-Let has been the OG of time. Make Buy-to-Let sexy again.
No, I'm totally on board. I think I did a post along those lines as well, like the back to basics is sexy. But it allows you to live your life as well, like you know, and not be swamped with, you know, like HMO and turnovers. And I think there's so many strategies and it becomes almost like chasing the latest shiny strategy. And because it's so talked about, there's almost like a case of FOMO, and I'm just like, no.
Guilty. We've done it. We regretted it.
Yeah, and we're very honest about it. We always
like, you have to try these things. There's no what ifs then, is there? So
exactly. I
Yeah.
just think with buy to let, like if there's, like we've always used property as a tool to be able to also do other businesses.
Yeah.
It's never just been, because it complements so well to
Yeah.
be able to do both. And like, why can't we do multiple things? But if you want
Exactly.
like an easy strategy and in property, then you can do that alongside other things too. But if you're doing
Yeah.
these multiple strenuous strategies, like I said, like each to their own, like, but
Yeah.
doing all of these things and you also have other interests, how much time do you really have to be able to really
Exactly.
do that?
Yeah. And it just comes back to putting the effort in at the front end. And yes, it's not passive, but you can make life easier for yourself.
Mm.
And so that you can go and live your life, you can go on holiday and not worry about it, and you can raise your children and know you've got this nest egg or you've got a legacy to leave and all of that, but it's just working nicely in the background for you, and yeah, ticking away. And that's why I love it so much. I could talk about it forever, because I
Well, we
just,
had a lady actually who was on our podcast that we know her personally, but she used building her portfolio so that she could family plan. That was her family
yeah,
plan. So it meant that
amazing.
she could run her portfolio, look after her tenants, but then be there to watch her kids grow. But she
Grow
did
up.
this before she even had a partner.
That's
She's so
amazing.
good. And I wish we
Yeah.
could tell more
If all
women this.
girls can start
Yes.
at 20,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
buy a
Yes.
property,
Yeah.
and then it
Not,
doesn't,
don't go and buy the bags
do
and
buy the
all
bag.
the fancy stuff. I love the bags, but that's more important. You can buy
Buy,
the bags later. Sorry.
yes, buy them later. Buy the property now. Get buy
Yeah.
to lets. Keep buying them.
Yeah.
After 10 years, you're gonna live your 30s onwards,
Yeah.
very without financial stress, in your full feminine being,
Yeah.
and just
Like, yeah.
be a
That's
better.
why
Mm.
you'd figured this out ways before I did when we spoke last time. And I
We
was
didn't
just
know we
like,
did. We took
you've
all
got this down.
We're just glad we did. So if we could say
Yeah.
that if we could all go back again, we wouldn't have made it as complicated as we did.
Yeah.
No.
It would have just been buy to lets.
Yeah.
Repeat.
Yeah.
But you don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. No regrets.
Yeah. And also, it's not too late. If you're not 20, you know, and you've got, several decades still ahead of you, it's better just to start now anyway.
Yeah.
And then that time's gonna pass regardless. And then, future you can still be, even if you have one, future you will be
Yeah.
so glad you even have one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we like to wrap up our episodes with our guests with this question. It's
Okay.
a complete.
Oh, this scares me. I'm not very good at thinking on the spot.
Don't be your final words on your gravestone. Don't worry. It's basically, it's honestly the biggest thing I've learned is complete the blank.
And that can be with life or business,
Life, business,
anything.
property, motherhood, womanhood. It could be about absolutely anything.
Oh my goodness. I think, and it's taken me a long time to get to this, and it's probably going to sound really cliche, but it's about being true to yourself. And yeah, I think I've gone all around the houses and on lots of diversions and everything, and it's been a journey to get back to just being me and being happy with that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that. It's
Trust your gut.
yeah.
Remember
yeah.
who you are.
Yeah, all of that. Be authentic, and just, you are special as you are, incredibly special as you are, each and every one of us. We're all unique and special. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you,
So,
Rebecca.
no,
Where can everybody
welcome.
find you? Where's the best place to reach out if anyone's listening? And
So I hang out mainly on Instagram, which is property. Oh, she says property girl. Yeah, a property girl. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, but it's not really my playground. And yeah, so Instagram's really sort of like the place that I hang out mainly. So yeah, come and message me, ask me anything. I'm always happy to answer any questions. I think, very quickly, I think that's how we learn. And I think sometimes we can be a bit afraid to ask those questions because we don't want to look silly or stupid. And actually, it's the best way to make progress and take action. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
always
send that
available.
DM.
absolutely,
It doesn't
yeah.
hurt. If you didn't get a response, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You lost nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we
Yeah.
didn't DM you, then we wouldn't be on this podcast right now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been amazing. I'm so glad that you did. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. I'm
Thank
sure we'll
you.
catch up soon.
It's been, yeah, definitely. It's been wonderful. So thank you. And yeah, thank you.
Oh, enjoy your weekend.
And you, I've got a quiet one this weekend. I'm so excited.
That
I'm just going to
sounds
do
lovely.
very little. So yeah,
Less is
quiet.
more.
Yeah,
Less is
less
more,
is
everyone.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep. Definitely sleep.
Bye.
Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. Sorry. Oh God. Sleep deprived. See.